When you work as a sports creative, they often say it's all about the passion. Well, passion doesn't pay the rent. But this episode isn't all about just money. It's about the creative, emotional, and strategic value you bring to the team and why it's okay for you to say, I deserve more. All right, welcome back to Sports Creatives Anonymous. I'm your host, Clayton Jones, a longtime sports creative still grinding it out. And on this week's episode, I'm going to start a new segment here called the Burnout Scale, where as the year goes on, we'll see where that burnout scale goes for me and seeing if I'm doing a good job of taking some breaks. Because obviously, right now it's August. I've had the summer to kind of recoup, so I would say I'm low. I'm at a 1. So we'll see where that goes as the season goes on and as fall season approaches here next month or upcoming this month, I should say. So, but today we're going to talk about knowing your worth, not just financially, but also creatively, because you don't want to get steamrolled as being just the person that does the stats or just a content person. Because we've all been there. We've all done a billion jobs if you're working in college athletics, especially in a small department where you're the graphic designer, the photographer, the videographer, the stats guy, the PA guy, or whatever you may be doing. You're doing a lot of things, and honestly, most people don't even know all the things that you're doing until maybe they have to do those things themselves. Or if you're a freelancer or own your own business, you probably get hit up with, people often questioning your prices because people don't understand the worth of what we do, right? There's oftentimes sticker shock, but in a way, I try not to say it's insulting, but sometimes it's hard not to take it that way. And yeah, I think a lot of it's important for us to know our worth because understanding ourselves and knowing that if we undervalue ourselves, that we're just going to hurt our own mental health. You're going to hurt your creativity. And honestly, you're hurting the entire industry if you are not asking for your true worth. You know the saying that content is king? Well, you're the person building the castle, right? So you shape how a team, a school, or whoever you happen to be working for, how they're perceived by fans, by recruits, by donors, and the media. So it's kind of important. Social media, as we, even hitting 2025, right? This is the way people are advertising. This is the way people are being seen now. It's not ads in newspapers or television or whatever else. This is where we could be seen. You don't need a ton of followers with the way algorithms work nowadays, right? You could have 1,000 followers, but if you have a dope video that goes out and really strikes a chord, you could get your school or your personal brand, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 views. So your work is crucial. And, you have to be careful of those red flags of working with people or seeing people who often say, oh, can you just slap something together real quick? It shouldn't take long, right? And them not understanding what you do. You're going to run into it often with maybe coaches or other people. But if the people that you're working for, your bosses or your clients are undervaluing the time that it takes, it's probably good to talk to them a little bit, but if they're still not very understanding and, that's a red flag. You got to look at maybe doing something else, doing something different, maybe breaking that relationship. It's so important to set your boundaries too. You have to make, and this goes towards folks who work in college athletics and especially small teams, right? Or small schools, excuse me. You have to run the main account, right? Make those teams run their own accounts. Make them find someone to create graphics. Do not try to take all of it on yourself. This is their responsibility. That is their team being promoted. You could promote them through your channel and all the content that you're creating and share it with them and whatnot. But if you're a lone person or a 2-person staff and you got 10, 15, 20 sports teams to worry about, you got to help. You got to set that boundary and make sure they're doing their share because you are going to grind yourself into the ground. And your creative worth will go down significantly. As creatives, we often undervalue ourselves because I hate the term imposter syndrome because I think it's just anxiety. Um, I think I heard that from Gary Vee actually. So I don't want to act like I came up with that myself, but I think it's kind of true. Anyways, if whether you call it imposter syndrome, anxiety, or whatever else, I think we compare ourselves to other creatives. We see big accounts, we see people that have been doing it for a while or very talented people, and we always think maybe we're not good enough or we're lucky just to be here. And we need to get rid of that thinking in this business and as sports creatives. We need to stand up for our value and understand that we are just as much of a part of the team as anybody else in terms of the department or your role as a to your clients and the value that you bring to them for their advertising, um, any of the marketing that you're going to be doing for them in terms of creating that content. You bring big value, and it should not be understated at all. I think often in sports culture and around, often, it's a young man's game or young person's game, excuse me. And oftentimes I think creatives, I don't want to say get bullied, but because they're quote unquote just happy to be there, oftentimes they please. I did it early on, right? Yes, I was too much of a yes person early on, and it definitely burned me out, and I quit the business twice. Listen to my last episode to talk about my journey. Shameless plug. But yeah, it's you got to set those boundaries. You can't be saying yes to everything and trying to please everyone. If people don't like you because you're setting those boundaries, now it's one thing if you're lazy and you're kind of a piece of shit and not doing the things you're supposed to be doing and not taking the time that you're supposed to be doing. That's one thing. But if you're truly, grinding it out or, doing your share, it's important to set those boundaries and because they don't realize that asking, I was thinking about this actually the other day, that I don't know if people realize when they ask for a graphic or if they ask for a video that that's depending on how long you're shooting there. And then it's another couple hours, right? Or maybe you can knock one out in an hour or two or whatever else, but they don't understand the time that takes. And I often have my weeks planned. So when people are starting to add those things to my plate in a week that I usually have pretty full at that point, it's I have to say no a lot of the time because I'm not going to stretch myself very thin, super thin, because I'm not going to be any good to this university, the person I work for, my client, or whatever at that point. So you could always try to explain and have a conversation, but I don't think that's always going to stick. So being firm and setting boundaries and saying no is your best bet. And if they don't understand why, well, they can eat shit. So how do we get over that imposter syndrome, that not feeling like we're enough, that say that we feel like we have to say yes to everything? I think the biggest part is just reframing your role in your head. It's understanding your importance, that you're not just a pixel pusher. You're not just making pretty shit for nothing. You are a strategic storyteller. You are telling the story of your university, your client, your team. You are impacting recruiting. You're impacting ticket sales. You're impacting engagement with that team. You're impacting the perception of that team. If you're making great stuff and great content that's going to be eye-catching and blow up and get viral or whatever, right? Your value is through the roof. You're probably not being paid nearly enough. So continue to understand that you are a part of your clients, your teams, your university's identity. You're not just background fodder. Once you get that creative worth and that self-esteem towards that, I think that's when you could really start making some headway with your financial worth and understanding that you got to get paid. Passion doesn't mean working for free or for just the exposure. I really hate to say this, but I think most creatives are very underpaid. It often makes me sick. I'm not looking for jobs, but I'm always curious what's out there. And I'll often, as a college communicator, I often go to the CSC College Sports Communicators website and see what jobs are open. And I see how much people are paying, and it's disgusting. I understand colleges are hurting and whatever else, but I see Division 1 schools. I saw one in the LA area trying to pay an associate director 50,000 a year. You ain't gonna live anywhere in LA for 50,000 a year. Um, they try to take advantage. It's a fun tax, really. They think, oh, well, it's fun, and it's also they're trying to get young people that are just appreciate working for the school. It happened to me. I went Division 1. Funny enough, I started at a JUCO in Kansas after my 10-year career as a sports journalist. When I hopped over to the college communicator side, and I went to a JUCO in Kansas, and then I was offered an opportunity to work at a Division 1, and I actually made less money there. Um, Probably not the smartest financial decision, but obviously I was going more for the experience, which was invaluable, but at the same time, it was ridiculous what they were paying me. And I think as a sports creative community, as particularly those in college athletics, I think we do need to stand together a little bit more and fight for those wages. If young, and if you're young and getting into this business, don't just be happy getting into the business. You have a worth. You have a big job ahead of you. Know that worth. Don't take 30 grand a year to go work at a school because you're just happy to have the job. It's bad for everybody in the business. So there's a few common traps that kind of we all run into when it comes to financials and the money in this business as a sports creative. Oftentimes we don't know what others are charging or making. I know in my side business, I'm still kind of figuring out what I should be charging. I think I'm woefully undercharging at this point, to be honest. But I'm also getting my side business off the ground. So I kind of struggle with it. I struggle with I have 20 years of sports experience behind me, creative experience. I should be compensated for that. But at the same time, I also have no experience as an independent business. So there's that fine line I'm trying to figure out. Another thing I think that many of us, because money's uncomfortable to talk about, right? Like whether you're in a relationship, um, starting a job, it's sometimes it could be uncomfortable, but we have to stop making it uncomfortable. But yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid to ask for more. And I get it. I know for a long time I worked at a position during my journalism days, and I kept being told, oh, you're going to get more. Oh, we're going to get you more. Oh, we're going to get you more. I ended up not getting more, and I was just way too laid back about it. And then I left, and then I saw they advertised for the job, more money than I was making when I left. And honestly, that was the turning point for me to understand that I'm the only one that's going to watch out for my bank account. I'm the only one that could fight for the money. I'm the only one that's responsible for this. And if I think people are just going to be nice and because they're friendly with me, or I might be friends outside of there, no, that's not the way it's going to be. And I don't want to say it turned me a little colder towards money, but I've definitely been more strategic and demanding, I guess, would be the not so nice word to say it. But yeah, you have to be kind of ruthless when it comes to it. I'm not above, and I think in today's society, we're not people that are staying at jobs for 20 years, 30 years. I think it's more and more common to bounce around a little bit, and I think that's cool because not every situation is the right one for you. It's taken me a while to find my right situation. I feel like I'm in one now, and I'm thankful for that. But I believe you shouldn't just feel like you have to be stuck somewhere. And I'm also a proponent of, what, if someone's not going to pay you your worth, look somewhere else. Get another job offer. Bring it to your boss and see what you're worth and see if that's it. And if not, be ready to go. You can't fucking stick around with people that aren't going to value your worth. And some oftentimes, obviously, it's not your boss. They're being told by above, like, they can't give more money, but I there just needs to be a bigger fight for creatives because it's so important in the realm of athletics and just in general in business. It's important. Um, Social media, is becoming this huge advertising platform that people are spending more and more money. And I think in college athletics, as colleges start to struggle a little bit more and more in terms of enrollment, I believe they need to start investing more in their social media, their creation, and a little less, and maybe some of this other fluff that's going on. And I know it's something I'm at my school, I need to be better at for sure, is really start focusing on social media and figuring out ways to be different and stand out. So um, I definitely think we need to be more conscious of spending that money and your worth. And like they need to be spending that money paying you and helping that school grow. And I think a last common trap is that you feel like you have to pay your dues, that you're just, having to go through it because everyone else go through it. Fuck that. If you get paid early on, get paid. Don't feel like you have to pay your dues. Don't feel like you have to go wherever else. Don't don't fear that you may not know what you're doing if you accept a job that has high responsibility. You'll earn it. It's guess what? Secret. We often take jobs that we don't know all the not ramifications, but the, every aspect that entails it. But we learn it, right? Or we sink and fail. And then usually we learn from that. So don't be afraid. Don't feel like you have to pay those dues. Go after it. And I want to touch on a few topics too about freelancers and money, because I think that's a difficult thing, like what to charge and how you should charge. I'm going to tell you now, never charge for hours. Every young person, look, just write it down, put it in your notes app, do something. Do not charge per hour. You aren't just editing, you're solving a problem for them. You're giving them something that they need. So it's none of their business how long it takes you to do that. And your work as a creative should never be based upon how long it takes you. There's times I could knock out a video in an hour and have it just look clean and perfect and like, wow, that all just came together. There's times it takes me 3 hours to do a video because the creative process, and I'm like, nope, not right. I need to fix this, do this. And that's just the way it is. So our value shouldn't be come in hours, but it should come in the project. And you should value yourself what that project, how much that's worth to you, instead of how long is that going to take me? Because it's a really bad way to start thinking. Even as a full-time creator or working, often we're salaried. Don't feel like I got to work the 40 hours. If you could get all your shit done in less time, do it in less time. Oftentimes we're at events, we're at games, we're doing all this stuff. Don't feel like you have to like cram all these other hours in. Be efficient, be impactful. Make sure as freelancers too that you're thinking about when you're charging somebody, thinking about taxes. Uncle Sam's going to take half that shit. Make sure you're ready for that. Or at least put it away or know that when tax time comes, that's what's going to happen. Think about the gear that you buy. Think about the software you use, the gas it takes you to get to a place. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be charging them for your new $1,000 lens, but think about that it's not just the time that you're doing. It's the equipment you're investing in, the software you're investing in. It all has a cost. And so it's stuff that they don't have. It's a talent they don't have. So you need to make sure you account for that in your pricing. And one last thing, if you're a freelancer or own your own business, raise your rates yearly. You have more skill. You have more talent. Your work is probably more sought after. Raise those rates. Keep raising those rates. You don't even have to do it yearly. If you do one job and you feel like you did a good job and like, oh, maybe I under asked, raise it then. Once you get maybe 3 or 4 no's, that's maybe when you kind of hit that ceiling and realize, maybe I'm charging too much. But your work has value. Your work is worth what somebody will pay for it. Your work has value to them, and that's another thing. You might charge for the same thing or the same quote unquote package, 2 different prices, because your work is worth more to a, let's just put it in business terms, right? Let's say you do something for a large conglomerate. If you do something for Apple or whatever else, right? If you do something for Apple, that work and the money that they bring in and the money, everything else that your work could provide for them is worth way more than if you go to mom and pop's computer repair place and do the same scope of work for them. The same 30-second video, same advertising, but it's just not going to have the same impact, right? So the worth of the job really depends upon also the client, because it's their impact and how much impact you have on that financially. There's an emotional reality too that comes with knowing your value. And you could still love the job and ask for more, right? We can be passionate about our work, and it doesn't mean we have to accept being undervalued. Those are 2 different things. I know there's guilt around asking for more when you feel like you're at your dream job and working in sports, but it's just like any other job, and that's the way you have to look at it. It's any other career path, a banker, whoever, right? It's your living. It's how you're making a living. You can't feel guilty for asking for more, even though you enjoy what you do. I know many times I've had to learn the hard way in knowing my value and worth. And more recently, I did when I was looking for jobs before I took this job at Western Oregon 3 years ago now. I actually had a job offer before that to work on an island. And it could have been easy for me just to be like, I'll take whatever the money is and it's worth being on that island. But I knew the cost of living. I knew what it would entail and how my life would be if I took that money just because I was so eager to live in a beautiful place. And honestly, I'd fallen for that once. I worked at a certain school in Malibu and probably wasn't making enough money doing so. So I had to learn my lesson the hard way a little bit, but yeah, it felt good to say no. And honestly, it opened me up for this position that I'm at now, where I feel like I'm earning my worth, or at least close to my worth, I should say. I shouldn't say I feel like I should probably be paid a few more dollars, but I'm just like anybody else. I'm in the fight, right? Like I ask for it. I do the things. I'm in there with my reviews, saying the things I'm bringing to the table and being honest about it. So, I'm right there with you. It's important to note too that gratitude and boundaries can exist at the same time. You could be thankful that you get to work in sports. You could be thankful that you get to create for a living. I am. I know I'm grateful for that. A lot of my job is creating, but it doesn't mean that you can't set boundaries. It doesn't mean that you can't say no and know your value and not be overworked. It doesn't mean that you can't ask for more money and be valued for what you're worth and what you do for the team, university, client, whoever. You could be happy with what you do and still be strong about what you deserve. So I encourage you to take a look at your role right now and see where you're at. Evaluate your role, and what you're doing versus the pay and responsibilities that you have. Talk to others. Normalize. We all need to, and I need to do a better job normalizing some of these conversations as sports creatives and understanding what everybody else is making, or maybe not making, but at least a ballpark, right? And keeping a tabs on that. Make sure we're raising those rates. Make sure you're asking for that higher salary. Be prepared for those conversations and be prepared for rejection too. They're allowed to say no, but you're also allowed to find another place to work that can value you the way you are. Don't be afraid to leave. You will be valued somewhere. If you're talented and you bring true value is really awkward to say because it's a company and it's not a sponsor of Sports Creatives Anonymous. Anyways, if you know your true value and someone else knows your true value, now I can't stop saying true value. If you know your worth, there you go. That's probably a better way to say it. And that means likely, and if you're talented at what you do, others will know that worth too, and you'll be rewarded. Hey, hit me up. Let me know what was your moment of realizing that maybe you were being undervalued and what you did. You can shoot me a DM at Sports Creatives Anonymous or at Clayton in Focus on pretty much any social media platform, or you could email me at sportscreativesanonymous@gmail.com. So if this episode hit home to you, send it to another creative who needs to hear this. Tell me your story. I'd love to feature some of the wins that you have in future episodes. And next week, yeah, that's right. I'm getting to the point where I'm actually planning these things a little further ahead. But anyways, next week, I'm going to talk about why I think every sports creative, particularly those that work full time, not for themselves, should have a side project and a side hustle. So if you got any thoughts on that and things I could bring up during the episode, go ahead and, again, hit me up on my email or sportscreativesanonymous@gmail.com or my social media at Sports Creatives Anonymous. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you next week.